Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna do a little sit and chat video. There are some things that I just want to talk to you guys about, maybe you guys can relate to. So we're just gonna have a little chat moment. Okay, so y'all listen, let's just be completely transparent real quick. So recently I've just found myself in a very weird place in my relationship with God. I feel like it's been like so stagnant, and I was trying to figure out, like, God, why is my relationship with you this way right now? You know, because sometimes my relationship with God is so good, sometimes my relationship with God is really good, and other times it's not. I lack putting in the effort that I need to maintain this relationship with God. In every relationship in our lives, whether it be a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a relationship with a family member, every relationship in our life requires effort. It requires us to put in work in order to maintain that relationship. If you never call your spouse, you never talk to your spouse, you never communicate with your spouse, your relationship is not going to be good. And that is the same way our relationship is with God. We have to communicate with Him, we have to talk to Him, we have to, you know, be in communion with Him. Otherwise our relationship is not going to be good. So recently I've just like found myself like very stagnant in my relationship with God, and I was just trying to figure out, I'm like, God, why? You know, I want to be close with you. I desire to have such a strong relationship with you, yet it's just not happening right now. And I was just trying to figure out, like, what is it? You know what I'm saying? And so God reminded me of something extremely important that I want to remind you guys of. And it just came to my remembrance. I'm telling you, like, God works in mysterious ways, but it's wonderful. And God reminded me that my spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak. And then God took me back to Matthew when Jesus and the disciples were in the Garden of Gethsemane. Alright, so if you go to Matthew chapter 26, Jesus and the disciples were in the Garden of Gethsemane before Jesus was going to be arrested. And Jesus told the disciples to sit there and stay awake and pray, just as Jesus himself was doing. He went to go pray. And Jesus comes back and they're asleep. And Jesus is like, so you couldn't stay awake with me for 1 hour? And so he told them to stay awake and pray so that they won't enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Jesus came back again and they were asleep again. And I'm so glad that God reminded me of this, because God's like, you're just like the disciples' faith. You're just like them. You want to do what is right. You want to be close to me. You desire to have this relationship with me. You desire, your heart longs for me, but your flesh is so incredibly weak. And I just reflect over my life for the past few weeks, and I was just thinking about how, you know, I haven't been reading my Bible the way I should, I haven't been praying the way I should. And it's not because I don't want to, it's not because I don't desire those things, it's because my flesh is so weak. I get tired, I get busy, all these things of life, I let it consume me from doing the things that I need to do in order to maintain my relationship with God. 3 times Jesus came back and the disciples were asleep. The disciples desired to do the right thing. They wanted to stay awake with Jesus and pray and watch as he had asked them to do. Their own human weakness overpowered their spiritual desire to pray. And that is exactly the place that I find myself a lot of times. My human weakness of being tired, of being busy, of letting life take over is stronger than my spiritual desire. So because our flesh is so weak, what do we do? I mean, that's the ultimate question, right? Like, our flesh is weak, but our spirit is willing. So what do we do? Okay, so verse 41 says, watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Jesus has given us the answer to what we need to do because our flesh is weak. The answer is to keep alert and to pray in order to overcome the temptations. See, the devil doesn't try to entice us with things that doesn't interest us. The devil is very particular in the way that he tries to tempt us. He tries to tempt us where we are the most vulnerable. And for everybody, that can look differently. But Jesus says the way that we can overcome these temptations that the devil is going to tempt us with is to watch and to pray. Keeping alert means being aware of the possibilities of temptation, as well as being spiritually equipped to fight it. When we find ourselves in these situations, Jesus is telling us to pray. We cannot fight this battle alone. Jesus is our source of strength, so we have to rely on that in these situations where we feel tempted, are vulnerable, and we are tempted. We have to pray immediately. That is how we can overcome the temptations that the devil is trying to entice us with. The devil tries to do everything he can to distract us, to take us away from our relationship with God. Our flesh is so weak, but we serve an incredibly strong God, and that is why he wants us to stay alert and to pray, just as he asked the disciples to do when they were in the garden. They kept falling asleep, and sometimes I find myself in that exact same situation. I know that I should come home and read my Bible when I get home from work, but what do I want to do? I want to go to sleep. I'm tired. I don't feel like reading my Bible. And that is exactly, the situation that I find myself in a lot of the times. So I'm gonna make a challenge to myself and to you guys. After being reminded of this, and I hope that you guys can be reminded of this as well, because I know I'm not the only person that is struggling with this or may have struggled with this, and I just pray that we can all take up this challenge. Whenever we are in these situations where we want to do what is right, our spirit is indeed willing. We want to have a close relationship with God. We desire to be close with God. We long for God in our lives. So in those moments when our flesh, when the devil is tempting us, and because our flesh is weak, we want to do what our flesh wants to do, I just challenge you in those moments to pray. When I come home from work and I'm tired and I don't feel like reading the Bible, I'm going to pray and ask God to help me, because we cannot rely on our own strength, because we are so weak. We need God's strength in our life. We need to pray in those moments and seek God in those moments, because God knows our hearts. God knows that we desire to be close with him. He knows that we desire a close relationship with him, but sometimes our human weakness overpowers that spiritual desire, and it requires us to fully surrender to God and pray to him.